Okay, it is 6:30, Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, and welcome to the final lecture for contemporary issues in criminal justice. And this 11 weeks is going pretty fast, pretty fast. So uh, we're not going to be long today, so I'm going to go right into the module so we can go ahead and get started. And let me share my screen. Okay. And there we go. Okay. So you see all that information there. So let's take a look and see what the assignments are for this week. Okay, so you got your written assignment, research your personal job, and it tells you explain, make sure you have the Bureau of Labor Statistics information there. For some fields, um, there's another system, but anyway, the comparable one, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics is available for most. And then explain the job market for your position, and then above all, citations and references. Again, I pointed out to many of you a few weeks ago that it's real important to put those in. And then your ACAT criminal justice test, I sent you the information for that. Okay. For week 11, because there is no lecture, um, make sure that you complete the field work the final report of the field work. I am going to be finishing up probably either tonight the field work, if I haven't finished grading yours, from week 9. Okay, or week 8, I think it was. All right, so let's go over. Look at the announcements for the week. Okay, and this tells you the future of employment for justice studies. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Module 10 is where we are. And then I also remind you that this is the final lecture and that all written assignments are due by December 14th, so a week from this Friday. Then your discussion assignment, your prediction, your initial posts were due yesterday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and reply posts, of course, due Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then complete the written assignment, research your personal job, and then ACAT criminal justice test. Okay, and then again, there is the announcement about the ACAT, and you can go through and read that. Be aware that this is not a graded test, and the key thing is just an evaluation, but you get 30 points for completing it and then letting me know. And the way you let me know is you submit it just like you do any other written assignment in the Dropbox along with your comments or remarks by the end of week 10. Okay? Some of you have already taken it. And then let's get to the calendar, which is kind of important this week because this is it. Boy, 11 weeks goes really fast. I tell people all the time, Some of you probably are in 5.5 classes. I have two of those that I teach. I teach Introduction to Criminal Law. Now that's now 5.5. Some of you are headed for 11 weeks, and then now I teach Drugs and Crime in 5.5. So those go real fast. So anyway, here is the information for this week that we just talked about. Didn't do on this Sunday the 9th. And then the following week, notice that your initial posts are due on Tuesday for week 11. Same way, but that your reply posts and everything else is due by the end of the day on the 14th. If it is the 15th, you will not get a grade for it. It will not be graded. All right? So if any questions, shoot me an email or call me or text me, or you can even ask me now if you're in a lecture and you want to ask about it just by typing in the chat box, and then I will see that. All right. So let's go to Module 10. Again, I just told you what you had to do. This is a 1 to 2 page paper. Make sure you run your papers through Grammarly, particularly if you do a one-pager, because it can be very easy to get hit with a high percentage of details and information from the sources that you use, such as the BLS. But we also want your critical thinking. Your critical thinking comes in terms of you're telling us about what you think is the future of your job. What did you find for skills, requirements, and then how you acquire this information. So the key thing is what you should be doing is, as I said this already, from day one, this course is preparing you for going out into the real world. Therefore, it would be a good idea, and many of you have gotten a hold of that, to include all your assignments on the ideal job, the job that you want to do. So if I was in school, I would have written it on wanting to be an attorney. Okay. And then your discussion, and then, of course, the ACAT. Again, I remind students all the time, I can't tell you what percentage you got wrong or right. I never see it. I never even get any grade of it. All is that I know if you completed it, you will let me know, but so too will the school. The school sends me an email telling me exactly who has taken the test. And I've had a couple of times where I've had students that told me they took the test, and the school sent me the information saying they had not taken the test, so I had to go on the information that the school had. So it's really important that you go ahead and take that, because it's an evaluation. Okay. Then your final keyword is due on Sunday, of course, as normal. All right. Trying to get back to lesson content. So the fields within the justice studies, statistics, and then summarize the outlook for justice studies. All right. And then viewing your ACAT, Area Concentration Achievement Test. And that's pretty much it. So basically, this again just kind of explains a little bit more in detail the ACAT and the importance of it. All right. It says the college received copies If you have questions, you can contact the college office at this location, and then it tells you what you receive. See, all this stuff it tells you. I never see it. I don't even. I just know what they say. Okay, so now let's talk about this. So, professions within the criminal justice field are varying. You have, I mean, so many fields that you can go into, so many areas that you can go into. But the basic ones are corrections, probation, you can do parole, you can do um, jails, prisons, you can do be an attorney, you can be, of course, a law enforcement officer. Law enforcement officer could be the FBI, all the way down to the local police departments themselves, the city, county, and state as well. And then there are other areas in criminal justice. You can go into forensics, where you get into the technical stuff, or things of that nature. And then there are some people who, in the field of criminal justice, end up doing uh, psychology with criminals. My daughter, that's what she does for Cook County Jail, and so she's working within the field of criminal justice with that. But the key thing is for you to have been thinking a while about what it is that you want to do, and then, of course, to be able to help you to put that together. The assignment that is predominant in this course is the field report. I've talked about that so that you will have a chance to have like a hands-on thing. You could do a ride along, or you could go to a court, or you could go to a halfway house, or you could, you know, shadow a parole or probation officer, or maybe you can interview, visit corrections or jail officers as well, and other people in the various areas. Um, my thing is, I used to, well, of course, I think I shared, I worked in a big law firm, and some of you, by the way, are working in the field already, I know, and you want to go into other aspects of it. So you use that information. And, one of the key things that you should be aware of is the contacts that you make from working in those fields that will help you to be able to get jobs. Because talking about the statistics on employment, um, when you do your research, you're going to discover one thing, and that is that there's some troubling numbers there. But here's the way that I tell people, because there were troubling numbers when I came up talking about lawyers, and that was, oh God, I graduated 40 years ago from law school, but I was, preparing right off the bat from 1969, which was like 51, 49 years ago. But anyway, the point of the matter is that I was able to get my foot in the door, and then, take advantage of the opportunities that were given to me. And as a result, I started as a messenger and worked my way up. You heard me talk about that. And ultimately, I was a lawyer. But the point of the matter is, so those statistics that you're going to run across uh, can be nullified by your experience that you have in terms of the contacts that you have. Of course, many of you have family members and other good friends in addition to what you're doing. And so uh, that's those are key things. As far as the outlook for criminal justice, I can tell you this: there's going to be a need for, I think, even more criminal justice professionals in the future because of the way that things are happening now. Of course, though, you should know that one of the issues that you face in terms of criminal justice is the funding, the budgetary issues to hire really good people. And you should also be aware of the fact that there are many areas in criminal justice that used to focus on allowing you to get these jobs and to advance when you had a high school diploma. They'd say you had to have a high school diploma, driver's license, but that didn't apply to parole or probation officers. It certainly doesn't apply to attorneys, but law enforcement officers, correction officers, that applied to. But now, as you discovered from the lectures that we had previously, that many individuals in the justice studies field are looking for more educated, professional-minded individuals, which speaks to the fact that you guys are here in school. Some of you are about to receive your associates, and some of you will continue on to your bachelor's, and some go even further than that. But the point of the matter is that the more educated you are in the field, the better your chances are climbing to the top. For example, I know that the chief of police, I'm going to use Chicago as an example. The chief of police of Chicago, I know for a fact that he graduated from a college in Illinois. One of my friends was his frat brother, and when he came to the police department, he had a bachelor's degree, and then he went on and got master's, and so now he's the chief of police of a major urban city. So here's my whole point in a nutshell. It behooves you to determine your future in the areas of criminal justice that you decide to go into. And it's going to be based upon your desire, your drive, your creativity, and helping others to know who you are. So when they get ready to hire somebody in the field, they'll know you by your first name. You know, they'll call you by name Richard or Shannon or Clarita. They'll call you that, and they'll know you well enough to be able to look at you first. Or put it another way, it gives you an inside track in terms of the opportunity to be able to perform. And so this course is not a busy course. It is a great course for getting your mind focused on what you want to do before you leave college. Of course, again, you should have been focusing on that before. And there are many students now that I know who I see in 1 week and they want to be this, and then they change their mind. They change their majors and stuff like that. I didn't do that because I knew what I wanted to be, and I stayed focused on that. Of course, that's a new thing now with students to do what I just said, and that is to switch over and change, get more than one degree in fields. I know people who have law degrees and nursing degrees as well, doctors and lawyers combined in one. Those are rare. But the point of the matter is you should, in the time that you have, begin to make headway into where you want to go and where you want to effectuate change within the criminal justice system. And while I'm on that topic, that's one of the things that I constantly share with my students, that I have 3 requirements that I look as far as getting you guys ready, and that's make sure that you operate on an ethical level, very ethical level, because as you already know, there are too many issues of ethics. I'll give you an example right now. in a case here in Chicago, the Laquan McDonald shooting, where a police officer was indicted and charged with murder for shooting a young man for 16 times, and he had a little paring knife in his hand and wasn't even lunging at him, but he said he was, and the video demonstrated that he wasn't. So he shot him 16 times, and the police officer was found guilty. But regarding the ethical issue, is that there are 3 other police officers now that are on trial, as I'm speaking right now, for providing reports that were inconsistent with what really happened. And there were some officers that were present that didn't go along with the code of silence and came forth, and then they testified about what really happened and said they couldn't in good conscience. Well, the key thing is that those 3 officers, even if they're found not guilty, there's going to be some problems with them because the reports that were presented contradicted what the evidence demonstrated by the video and the overall evidence. And what they were doing, these 3 officers were supporting the version of the officer, Jason Van Dyke, who was found guilty of murder and trying to, as they called it, a cover-up. So what I am talking about, so that goes with my ethics. You don't want to be working in the criminal justice field and end up being one of the customers, if you know what I'm saying, behind the bars or with a criminal record, those kind of things. And then the next thing is operate on a professional level and follow the policies and procedures of whatever agency that you work for, and make sure that you don't deviate from them because that can land you in a bad situation. And then, of course, the last part is educational, and you guys are doing that already, obtaining your education. The knowledge that you attain will result in a more professional criminal justice individual. And the decisions that you will make will probably be better because you'll be better prepared to deal with the circumstances from the various courses that you had, also from the experiences of where many of you work, if you're working in the field or even close to the field. And so, but you know what? One of the things that I do tell people is be very careful about sometimes listening to another person give their perspective about why they became what they did in criminal justice. I'm saying, you know, learn how to, how should I say, take away the meat and throw away the bones. The key thing is that there are going to be some people, for example, I'll use law enforcement, that have come from old school in terms of dealing with individuals who are suspects or criminals. And in this day and time, you will find yourself in deep trouble, such as like you all are familiar with the character that Clint Eastwood created, Dirty Harry. And are you guys familiar with Dirty Harry? You can type that in if you are, yes or no. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So Dirty Harry was a cop who, yes, yep. Go ahead and make my day is right. But what he did was he violated every civil rights that the individuals had, and also, you know, he would address them, the individuals in such a way that I discourage. I tell students, don't do that. Make sure that you don't use. For example, when I was teaching uh, communications in criminal justice, written and oral, I would tell my students, please, and I was a police officer at one point, so I know how this works, and I've been around enough. uh, you don't want to escalate a situation. One of the easiest way to escalate a situation is call somebody out of their name or cuss them out. Remember, you're the professional, and your job is to de-escalate, not escalate, and to do as much as possible. Oftentimes, if you're in law enforcement, if you could operate like Joe Friday, you guys probably don't know who that was, but if you do, he was a police officer who um, very courteous, and he'd use ma'am and sir, and and use people's names and stuff like that. Dragnet. It was from Dragnet, and there was an original TV show. Some of you might know Dragnet because of the movie that Tom Hanks did. Yep. And he was very um, monotone and forward with people. But the point of the matter is that he didn't escalate people. And remember, you remember if you're going to be working in this field in criminal justice, you're going to be a caseworker, you're going to be a psychologist, sociologist, you're going to be a linguist, because you're going to have to be able to reach people in various languages. You're going to have to operate on the basis of diversity, because you're going to meet people that speak a language that you don't understand or came from a culture that you don't understand. And you're going to be in situations where you don't want to use deadly force. We got a case going here now in the Chicago area of a police officer who we don't know what's going to happen with it, but he arrived at the scene and he saw a guy holding a gun and a person, and he thought that the guy holding the gun was the guy who was the one that the call was made on. There were other police officers at the scene, so he gets out of his car and he sees him. He says, drop the gun, and the person uh, either didn't hear him or either was trying to tell him, and other officers and police officers were telling him he's security, and the officer shot him, and he died. So you excessive force is a last resort when we are operating in the law enforcement area as well. So those are just some of the things, but it fits right within the context of the fields that you're going to work in, knowing how they operate in real life. As I remind my students who want to go into forensics, um, they watch CSI, they say, oh, that's what I want to do. I said, you're going to be surprised. It doesn't work like that at all. Just like you look at some of these law programs on TV, yeah, nope, it's not glamorous. It is not glamorous at all. But it's very tedious, as a matter of fact, and oftentimes you have to come into contact with some stuff that you don't want to handle. Or you wear gloves and all kind of protective gear, but once again, you have to gather this evidence and stuff like that, and then you got to take it in and analyze it. So, and then the final thing I'm going to say, as far as criminal justice is concerned, it's really awesome. I saw this past week with your many of the individuals who were writing about jobs and things of that nature, dealing with your future in it, but looking at the changes of the field and what has helped you. And technology has been the greatest change, and some of the greatest technological aspects of it involve things like DNA. We didn't have DNA when I was a practicing attorney, and when I was a police officer, 89 and 93, it was just starting to come on, but it wasn't as big as it is now. And then, of course, you and I both know that the ever-present cameras that are everywhere. Uh, First time an incident happens in the streets, they start to try to find the cameras. Police officers, of course, now have body cams, and then there's dash cams on the vehicles, which I would have appreciated when I was in that field, because it lays out what happened. And I can tell you many times that as a lawyer, there were suspects or individuals that I represent who came and said, the police did this, the police did that, and stuff that sometimes found out to be true, sometimes not so true. But the how do you say it? The camera captures it all, and it lays it out so that, and then it also has been able to solve many cases. I'm laughing because I had a young man who was guilty of retail theft, and they had him on the video camera, and I saw the video camera, and so he said that that wasn't him. And his mother slapped him upside the head because she knew it was him. But you candid camera. There was a TV show that used to come on years and years and years ago, and would catch you when you didn't know the camera was on you. Well, that's the way it is now, and so that's one of the technological advances that has helped criminal justice as well. But like I said, the most revolutionary change, as far as I'm concerned, is the DNA. DNA can exclude an individual, or either it can include the individual. And so it's a tool that has helped in the criminal justice field to resolve many instances of questions, or provide answers to questions when it was pretty difficult to get. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I'm going to go back to, before I leave, I just want to just quickly go to Module 11, and then just see, again, the assignments. I want to remind you that your final field report is due, and citations and references, your discussion posts, and then this exam. Now, remember, this is not the ACAT, and this is an assessment for the AAS degree, and consists of 100 questions. And so you want to do well on this. Take your time, as it tells you. And a student asked me once, how do I study for this? I said, I can't tell you how to study for this, because it's going to be a survey of the various courses that you've had throughout your criminal justice program. Criminal law, some corrections. You're going to have maybe some constitutional law, maybe some evidence, all of these different things. So the key thing is that it will determine where you are there. Now, as I tell students all the time, that when you take a thing that says assessment, it's really something important for you, because it tells you what you got. For example, that's why I always tell students, don't get in a course just to do the coursework, writing the papers. You get in the paper, and then when you are in the paper, when the paper is submitted, it comes out as you, if you understand what I'm saying. And so the key thing is that it becomes a part of you. Every assignment that I ever did in school, I put myself in it. And I can go back as far as my first year of college because I was very serious. I was 19, but I also had a mission, which you guys already know about why I wanted to become a lawyer. And I didn't have time to not uh, work hard to get my assignments done. Of course, I had to do it the old-fashioned way. I had to go to the library, and we used these paper books at that time. We didn't have laptops and all that stuff. We had regular typewriters. But the point of the matter is, all I'm simply saying is that it is important that you develop the habit of making whatever assignment that you're doing a personal experience for yourself, not just to get a grade. And when you develop that habit, it'll carry over into your professional career, such as when I was in the law firm and I was given the job as law librarian. My job was to be the custodian of the books, file the changes every week that came out on the publications that changed over, take care of the books, put them on the shelf, pull out the old books and outdated ones. But I didn't just do that. I got into the books. I saw particularly how they were doing research using those books. I decided to make that a part of my own thing. And guess what? It ended up in them finding out that I could do that, and it resulted in a promotion into a position that's now called paralegal. I was law clerk. I shared that with you early on in the course. But my whole point in a nutshell, I'm just giving you an example of how take the opportunity to learn something that will benefit you and make you a better professional at what you're doing. And that's what you ought to have been doing with these assignments. I've kind of hinted on that during week one, but you can keep on doing that with your bachelor's. I know that you have things that happen in life. I know. But the point of the matter is that you still can't let life knock you off of the path that you want to go. The road to success is full of pitfalls, challenges, and hazards. But guess what? When you carry that with you, it helps you, makes you tougher. It helps you to be a better prepared individual, and that's what you want to be. And so I want to take the time to thank each of you for this 11 weeks. Many of you I've seen before this. Whenever I teach these courses, I always see students that I had in other classes, and always happy to see students in another class, other than seeing a student repeat the same class, because I know then, and you know what I'm talking about, they didn't do as well. But you guys, I've had you in other classes, and I remember names and students. And now I want to say this to you. I'm going to give you a key word in a minute, but some last parting words I can give you is this: is that work hard. Accept challenges. Try to stay focused, and also do this: take every opportunity that's put before you, not to do the minimum, but to go beyond that, and you will be successful. The other thing I want to say to each of you is that, and I've had this happen with students. Right now, I have one that actually I'm helping uh, get into law school. And if you need a letter of reference, you can always reach back out to me. You have my email address. You should also have my personal email address as well because it's in here. But I'll type it in. Of course, though, you can always find me, of course, at richard.wright@rasmussen.edu. But if I end up leaving here, I'm not planning on going nowhere. Plan on being here a while. So I want to help as many students as possible. So feel free to reach out to me for any questions, any guidance, direction, and like I said again, be sure that if you need a letter of reference. Now, I'm not going to have a student to reach out to me for a letter of reference and they know they didn't do well. But as we always tell people, when you use a reference, you use someone who can speak positive about you. And one thing that you should know about me, and I think you already know this, is that I'm not going to say an untruth about it. I remember, to be honest with you, who attended the lectures in many of my classes, and I have a lot of them. Because I get to know the names by sight and vision, such as the two of you who are in here now. And, and then the other thing is that I, too, remind students that I'm still available, and some of you are. You can see me by this. Richard Wright JD, that's how you can become my friend on Facebook. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, which, by the way, I highly recommend to you guys to build a professional profile as well. Are either of you familiar with LinkedIn, or are you on LinkedIn? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, update it. Keep it updated. I frequently, whenever I make a change, my status, employment, or anything, it's a good thing. And I'll tell you why. Because talking about what we've been talking about today, there are people who reach out to me who have, asked me to connect with them, and they will view your site and then they will see things about you, and they will reach out to you sometimes for opportunities in employment. And so that's something that is beneficial to students. Not a lot use it, but I mean, I'm on it. I got everything on it. I get offers to go to teach at various institutions. And but I said, no, I like Rasmussen. I like where I'm at, and so I'm settled in here. Maybe some of the younger guys might switch over, but here's a deal. If you, for example, are doing law enforcement, there are all kind of departments that will reach out to you, individuals who will put out job opportunities for you. So that's the place for that. So you want to make sure you set up a full profile on LinkedIn, because it's kind of like one of these companies that you post your resume on and people go. But LinkedIn is very professional. And then if you do the premium one, which I don't, but if beneficial to you if you in the job market, it opens up even more information for you. So that's a great technological tool that can help you with that. So anyway, with that, I'm going to say good night and ACAT. That's it. That's what I want to see. ACAT. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon. I've enjoyed having you in class as well. I enjoyed having you in other classes. I forgot what other class. Did you take Intro to Criminal Law or um, Corrections with me? Which one? Or both? Or all of the above? Were you in that class? I can't remember. Yeah, last semester. I think you is either it wasn't corrections. It was probably introduction to criminal law or either drugs and crime. The yeah, drugs and crime. Yeah. One of my favorite courses. We digressing on that. We did a last night. I did the week 5 lecture on that, and I gave everybody a chance to see Chasing the Dragon. That was about a 45, 50-minute video in that class that you had to include for your Module 5 written assignment. Yeah, that was like that just sucks you in. It makes you really realize the seriousness. Yep, it is haunting, and it's very troubling too. And you see how innocent people can find themselves very quickly caught up in painkillers and all those kinds of things. But the epidemic proportions of drugs, and I already say this, that it's called drugs and crime, but because actually I always say this, that if we got control over drugs and drug rehab and treatment of individuals, we'd have less crime, because one of the areas that take place quite frequently is that people commit crimes to support their habits or to make money from it and those kind of things. So anyway, yep. So anyway, I'm going to say good night, and I'll see you guys sometime in the future. So good night. Thank you.